Hi guys, welcome to our Financial Aid Basics at Harvard College session. My name is Hannon Gowanlock and I'm a Financial Aid Officer here at Harvard. Can the rest of you guys introduce yourselves? Sally, do you want to go first?
Sure. Welcome. I'm Sally Donahue. I'm the Director of Financial Aid at Harvard College.
Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm a rising sophomore here at Harvard, and this summer I am a coordinator for the Harvard Financial Aid Initiative.
And my name is Melissa, also a rising sophomore here at the college, and I'm working with Sophie as a coordinator for the Harvard Financial Aid Initiative.
Great. So we're so happy that you guys are here to join us and hear a little bit more about our financial aid program. If we want to maybe switch over to some slides, we thought we would start off with the sort of boring basic information for all of you, so that you have those basics, and then we'll have time for questions for any of us, for any other questions that you have. So Financial Aid at Harvard is based entirely on financial need. We do not have any merit scholarships or athletic scholarships, although those things obviously are great in terms of your admissions application. It is a separate process. And foreign students have the same access to funding as U.S.-based students, so that's a question that we get a lot. The financial aid is available for the full cost of attendance, so it's not just for tuition and you're left on your own for room and board. We're looking at covering tuition fees, room and board, as well as an allowance towards personal expenses and travel. And it's a really generous financial aid program. Sally, do you want to talk a little bit about sort of our HFAI and what we've done there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, although you might be concerned about the cost of college, and it's something you should take into consideration, over 60% of our students at the college receive help in covering college costs. They receive Harvard scholarships, and the average scholarship is probably about $40,000 a year. And so we have about 4,000 students actually receiving a significant amount of financial aid to help cover the costs. Next year, we're actually planning to spend a lot of money on scholarships, as we have been doing for years. I think the budget is about $175 million, which is emblematic of the significant commitment we have to making sure that Harvard College is affordable for all the students that we admit. One of the things that I think is particularly attractive about our program is that you can actually know that if your family income is under $65,000 a year, your parents will not pay anything to cover your costs at Harvard. And over 20% of the students at Harvard College are in this situation, and their parents pay absolutely nothing for them to come to Harvard for 4 years. I'm trying to... our program is actually... If you go to our net price calculator, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, you can pretty easily find out how much it might actually cost you and your family to come to Harvard. But families with incomes between $65,000 a year and $150,000 will contribute from nothing up to 10% of their income per year. Families with incomes over $150,000 a year, and again you can see this in our net price calculator, will pay more proportionately than the 10%, but it is still a very affordable endeavor. Families at all income levels, however, who have significant assets will be asked to contribute a little bit more, because that certainly affects their ability to pay. Haney, do you want to pick up with the scholarship recipients and the income levels, or?
Sure. We've got a chart here that could be interesting for some of you, just showing really the breadth of families that are receiving scholarship aid. It's a really generous program, and we recognize that the total cost of attendance is really high, and families have a lot of tugs on their income and their assets. So you can see here that we have families receiving aid at all kinds of scholarship levels, at all kinds of income levels, rather, and it's very generous. I wonder if our current students here would say a little bit about what it was like applying for financial aid for them. I know it can be a pretty scary process. Did you guys think it was hard to do?
Yeah, I mean, when I was looking at colleges, my mother and I, we do come from a pretty low income background, and when I was looking at schools, I mean, academics and other factors were important, but when it really came down to it, what really, really mattered to us was the financial aid that I'd be receiving. When it came down to it, that's what mattered. Uh, and that's actually why once I learned about Harvard's financial aid program, I kind of focused on it for most of my search because it was that sort of ideal financial aid package. We didn't have much difficulty applying. It was simply a matter of submitting a couple financial profiles so that Harvard got an idea of what our circumstances were, and Harvard is also really good about taking into account not just the raw numbers, but also the situation your family is in, whether there's a sick family member or whether someone got laid off. They're really good about looking at the whole package there.
For me, I just thought it was kind of difficult at first because I had no idea that like what a CSS profile was before like applying to college, and so once I found out that like it would definitely be worth it, that if I got in and I filled out all these forms, like I could go to college and not graduate without debt, it was so worth just like going through and plugging in all the numbers into the online forms, and it's just been the most rewarding experience.
Melissa, did anyone help you particularly, navigate that process?
So I asked my parents, both of whom had never applied for financial aid or really applied to college, so they were not the most help. And my guidance counselors at school were usually pretty busy and didn't really know exactly like what I was doing or what I was applying for. But I found that if you like really go through all of the online applications, you can find like the little help buttons, and they'll tell you like exactly which line of your taxes like has the number that you need to input into the form. And there's also a tool that if you like set it up with the IRS, that the IRS will actually like fill out the FAFSA mostly for you. I found that very, very helpful.
We love the data retrieval tool. Pretty cool. Why don't we talk a little bit about what our financial aid packages look like in terms of how we meet a student's financial needs. So financial aid packages are made up of the parent contribution, a student contribution, and then we make up the difference in the total cost of attendance using scholarship aid. That's a pretty great thing. We don't use loans to make up the difference between what a family can come up with and what they need in order to go to college. So if you look at this little chart here, this is sort of a typical financial aid package. You can see there's a parent contribution, there's a student contribution. Usually we call that a work contribution because students will be working a summer job and a term time job to come up with money to cover their personal expenses, their books. We'll talk a little more about that later. And then that whole difference is made up of scholarship aid that Sally was talking about earlier, the many millions of dollars that we are giving out to cover students' costs. I think it's interesting to go a little more into this sort of student contribution and the idea of working while you're here on campus. Actually, over 2/3 of our students work, and a lot of people are like, what? How am I going to go to Harvard and do all of the work and get good grades and still find time to earn money somewhere? But it's really surprising. So many of our students do work and report a lot of satisfaction with working, and they earn pretty substantial amounts of money while they're here. Melissa and Sophie, do you guys want to talk a little more about working? Did you have jobs while you were on campus?
Yeah, so I work at the undergraduate library on campus, Lamont Library, and I want to say I work about 10 hours a week on average. If it's like a lighter week for homework, I'll pick up more hours, or if it's quite busy, like maybe it's finals, I'll work like a few less. But it's like a great experience where I get to earn my own money, so I have some spending money to like go out to like frozen yogurt with my friends, or if I just like want to go into Boston. It's a really great experience to like work on campus.
Yeah, I work at the Harvard box office, and I enjoy my job in that we obviously do have a lot of academic work here, and I get some kind of very different pleasure out of just doing work that doesn't involve intense machinations of my brain. I really enjoy just sitting there and doing the simple tasks of handing out tickets and stuff. It's a nice sort of uh, break from more of the typical events in my week. So it definitely never feels like a burden.
Did you guys find it difficult to find your jobs?
No, I was very nervous about finding a job coming into school. I mean, over even sorting out classes. Like, I didn't even care what classes I took. I just needed to make sure that I had a job and that I would be able to keep that job. So I was really nervous, but I just went into the box office. I think it was my second day of school. I asked if they were hiring, got an interview, and then I got the job. And it was also listed on the student jobs database online, which is also super easy to access. So you can do it that way too.
Yeah, for me, I went into the library. It was like orientation day for the library, and they were giving tours and like showing freshmen how to like navigate the library. And I saw a sign on the circulation desk like asking people to apply. So I just like, went out of my way, sent the boss an email, got an interview, and it worked out quite well for me. And then later, I did find that the job was listed on this like the student jobs database. So I probably would have found it eventually.
Awesome. I also remember feeling extremely anxious when I came to school about having my first job and finding my first job, and was pleasantly surprised to find that there were flyers absolutely everywhere looking for everybody, and they wanted me. So that was really exciting, and actually totally learned skills that I've used in the working world since. So I think it's a really good feature of our program. Another way that students can actually earn money is by doing research on campus. We have a huge number of research grants available for students to work with faculty members and other departments to actually do scientific or other types of research. And I think that's something people don't always think, oh, I have to get a campus job and earn, $3,000 to help buy my books and my personal expenses. But you can actually do that by doing, your schoolwork or something that you're really passionate about. Did either of you guys, think about doing research? Do you have friends who have done research?
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who are doing research. I have a friend who's doing ALS research. I have a friend who's actually writing a book with a professor here, helping her write a book about Sharia law. I have a couple friends who are doing social psychology research, and I've recently contacted a professor that I met actually at the orientation for the psychology concentration, and I'm going to be joining him to do some research in suicide prevention. So it's really easy to access.
And I haven't done research on campus, but I do also have a lot of friends who are doing research. I have a friend who her first semester got a job working in a chemistry lab and is helping a professor write something that's going to be published, and her name's actually going on the paper, which is very exciting for her to be a published freshman. And then I have friends who are also like right now doing research at like the Kennedy School of Government and like social sciences. I have a friend who does linguistics research during the year. It's very, very accessible if research is an option that you want to pursue.
Awesome. That's very lucky. So it doesn't look like we have any questions at the moment. So I thought maybe we could cover some of the questions that we hear a lot over the phone and over email. I hear a lot of people asking, whether our financial aid is available also for students who want to study abroad or any programs like that. And that's totally true. So students would be able to have access to the same financial aid if they wanted to spend a semester abroad. Do either of you, Melissa or Sophie, plan to do that? Have friends who are going to include an international experience as part of their time at Harvard?
Yeah, a ton of our friends are abroad this summer. It makes the Facebook newsfeed very exciting to see their pictures from all around the world. and all of them did get funding. All of my close friends did get funding to go abroad this summer, which they were so thankful for. I mean, when those um, when they got their letters that they were accepted to these study abroad programs, they were super excited, because they're the kind of opportunities that you dream of when you go to college, and the fact that they were able to afford them because of the generous funding kind of really made their summer.
I also have friends who, not just during the summer, but also study abroad during the year. So I had a friend who studied at the University of St. Andrews, and he was really excited to have his financial aid travel with him, because he was very worried about being able to not go here but go somewhere else for a semester, and it worked out very well for him. And then I also have some friends who are going to Spain for the fall semester, and it would definitely not be possible if not for financial aid.
Wow. I wonder if either of you has any advice that you would want to give to prospective students who are thinking about Harvard, nervous about finances, feel like there's no way that they could ever go to Harvard because they could never afford it.
What can we say about that? It's very easy to live at Harvard, especially coming from a low-income background like we do. I was very worried that everyone was going to be super rich and live a lifestyle I could never imagine. But Harvard does a really great job of making everyone have sort of equal playing field here. So one thing that I took advantage of this or these past few semesters was the Student Events Fund, and through that and financial aid, I was able to attend a cappella concerts with my friends, or go see shows or dance performances, and it wasn't a big financial burden for me. And also, I actually Student Events funded my bus trip to Yale to visit the Harvard-Yale game, which I didn't think I would get to do because I thought traveling would be kind of a big financial burden, but it was really exciting that I got help with that.
Right, and I mean, aside from tuition, room and board, college can be an expensive process. I mean, you're living on your own, you need to buy things for yourself, you need to buy books and everything, but Harvard actually includes money for those personal expenses in your financial aid package, which was very important to me. They really make sure it's not just a matter of getting you here, it's a matter of keeping you here and making sure that you're comfortable while you're here.
I think that's a really great point and a good thing to hear. Sally, I wonder if there was any advice or anything you'd want to let all of our prospective students know?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think even I sort of don't like completing my tax forms on an annual basis, and filling out forms I think can be very intimidating and labor intensive. But it really actually, if you just sort of follow the instructions and go question by question, and if you need help, obviously give us a call or email us. Go to our website. We actually really try to answer some of the questions we think you might have as you go about applying for financial aid. But I think the important thing to think about is that the Harvard experience, which is really so remarkable, is something that you want to be sort of thinking about and focusing on and thinking about applying. We hope that you will apply and complete the financial aid forms, but really don't think about finances at all as being a barrier, because of all of the students who apply for financial aid, it only costs across all of those 4,000 students an average of about $12,000 a year. And again, for the families with incomes under $65,000, it doesn't cost the parents anything. So we hope very much that you will think about applying and just complete the financial aid forms, which include the FAFSA and the profile form, as I think Haney had mentioned earlier. It's pretty easy to do now. You go to our website and you just actually look at the instructions and just click on the forms, which are now electronic, and then do your best to wade through them and answer the questions. And there's a lot of help available. I mean, as I think Melissa had mentioned earlier, there's the FAFSA. Actually, you can choose to have the Internal Revenue Service import your answers basically from your tax form. And with the profile form, which asks for a bit more information so that we can get to better know your family's situation and help you, more. The questions really are intended to help us help you.
And
So,
I would add, yeah, I would add that, if you have situations or information that is not included on the forms that you think is, relevant to your financial situation, that we want to hear about that. And, it's a very holistic process. Real people read all of this. We are real people here. If you call us, if you email us, there are actual people behind it answering your emails and answering your questions. So I think we all hope that you will not not apply just for fear of completing these forms and for fear of the potential cost. We want to make Harvard as affordable as possible and to remove those barriers. So please do reach out to us. Our website is college.harvard.edu, and we would really love to hear from you. And I think that is it. So please be in touch with any questions.
I think we have a question. It looks like there's a question from South Florida.
Oh, fantastic. Hello, William. When should you be starting the financial aid process for college in general? Awesome. I'm assuming that you have a student who is starting next year. If that's the case, then you would probably start in the fall to be thinking about it. It's probably a good idea to go to the various websites of schools that that the child is thinking of applying to, and maybe try their net price calculators, take a look at their application instructions. Luckily most schools are using a really similar application process at this point. Deadlines can be very boring types of information to give you, but I'll tell you that if you're applying early action, you'd probably be submitting forms to us around November 1st, and if you're applying regular action, you'd probably be submitting forms around March 1st. Anyone have anything to add for things that they should be thinking about at this point?
Yeah, I would just add, William, that it probably makes some sense to begin to familiarize yourself with what you're going to be asked. And there's a lot. Actually, the federal website is pretty good with the FAFSA, and you can actually get in there and get a sense of what questions you're going to be asked. You can't actually complete the FAFSA, which is the application for federal aid, which we ask you to complete, and most colleges will ask you to complete that. I think probably all of them. And you can't complete that until January. So if you're applying early, as Haining said, to any school, we ask you to complete the profile form, and you just go to the link, click on it, and complete away. And other schools may have different forms, but that's basically the time frame.
Yeah, and I would add that in terms of deadlines, what we're really trying to do is get you financial aid information at the same time as admissions information. And so we're often, trying to collect information along the same timeline, since we know, you need to know what it's going to cost to come here before making a decision about whether to come here. And so that's kind of the ethos behind all of our deadlines and wanting you to get things in. Any other questions?
I would just add that you want to make sure to go to our net price calculator on our website, and that way you can just put in your information really super quickly and get a sense of how much financial aid you might expect to receive at Harvard. So that'll help you begin to sort of think about the whole financial aid process.
For sure. Do you have any other questions or things anyone would want to add?
I guess, one of the other things that I would add is that we have so many programs and opportunities in the summer that have really expanded in the past decade, so that it's possible to sort of think about not only the 9-month academic year, but also going abroad during the summer, participating in one of the many Harvard study abroad programs for which there is financial aid available. And there are also a number of other programs, like there's something called the Weissman International Fellowship, which covers projects that students submit in application for the funding of all different kinds in all different countries, and that also is a fully funded program. So you can find out about a lot of these on our websites, but it really is remarkable the number of opportunities that are available to you, certainly at Harvard and probably at a lot of other colleges and universities as well.
I wonder, I'll just ask, Melissa and Sophie, did you guys ever do any summer programs or apply for any particular grants for summer, or do you plan to in the future?
Yeah, I definitely plan to. This summer I did want to stay closer to home, just to be closer to my mom. It's kind of a transition period, but next year I have started looking at the many study abroad programs, and it's something that I can't really resist for much longer.
Same. I'm actually looking into going possibly to Argentina. I was looking at the Rockefeller Institute for Latin American Studies, and they are really great about giving students funding to go abroad. And I'm hoping to do human rights research in South America next summer.
Yeah, we should say that the financial aid that we're talking about is usually for the 9 months, as Sally was saying. And we're not even probably touching on the extreme breadth of crazy funding opportunities available in the Harvard community. I don't think that we could ever put them down on one page, and there are so many of them for so very many different things. So there's a lot of opportunities here.
That's for sure.
Okay. Great. Well, we hope that you will apply, your students out there, and please be in touch with us with any questions at all that you have. You can call us, you can email us. All of that information is on our website, college.harvard.edu. Oh, it looks like we do have a question. So this seems like a pretty specific question about travel costs for summer projects. I would say that may be a little too complicated for us to answer in this type of forum. It would probably be dependent on the exact type of thing. We do include travel costs as part of our financial aid packages. But perhaps you might want to give us a call or send us an email about those specific questions. Okay, great. Well, farewell then.
Bye. Good luck.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, guys.